we're going to move to a place where you can't see the hotel, and we got the best site in town, and we had our building permit. But if we'd built that courtyard there, they never could have gotten the conference center because you couldn't do it as a standalone. So Forrest agreed, and I did what Forrest said. So Mr. Irving came to me and said, I'd like to put a truck stop there. And I said, well, it doesn't fit they had the little Irving station where the convenience store is and the subway. And I said, it's like a 25-foot grade. He said, we're going to excavate that 25 feet down. I said, my God, that's like millions of dollars to go see us. And they did. So that truck stop is where the brick tower was. That site is now 22 feet lower than it was when the brick tower was there. And at the time, I put a covenant on it when I sell it, there could never be a hotel or a motel there. And at the time, they spent almost $2 million in excavation. I thought they'll never make their money, and they've done very well with the truck stop.
They preserve the brick tower.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Mr. Dupree, I think you answered a question referencing our variance number 6. If you leased another 25 feet of land from DOT, then your parking and dumpster would be within the 25-foot setback.
You're right, we could do that. But again, DOT was very reluctant because the corridor hasn't been decided. I mean, that bridge at exit 12, they rebuilt. That's not moving. And there's wide agreement that the roundabouts are the best way to handle traffic. And that's going to happen, but
So they were not willing to,
they won't,
interested in leasing.
yeah, they just said it's our policy. In fact, it's only in the recent few years that they've started doing this leasing, because they're very protective of land, I get it. They don't want to make a mistake, but even they admitted there's no possible future use, but they would not give us another row, and they wouldn't let us. I thought the idea of moving the driveway so we could put the restaurant out front and not need any of these variances, and they said, we just designed that driveway, you're not moving that. Apparently, if you move the driveway too close to the roundabout, it impacts the effectiveness of the roundabout. Right.
It probably confuses people going around if they see cars lining up there.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
No? Well said.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard in favor of this application? Is there anyone who'd like to be heard in opposition of this application? Craig?
I don't have anything specific to add. I'm just going to reserve the right to debate the issue of two principal uses in one structure. So.
We've been doing that for about a month and a half.
But other than that, no, I don't have any comments.
Right. Seeing none, then declare the hearing closed and open this up for discussion. What say ye?
Well, I'll start off by saying that I think on all 6 variances, they've demonstrated that there's hardship inherent in the property in terms of its frontage on 3A and its configuration. I think everything they've done is an effort to not affect the surrounding values, to act in the public interest, and I would be in favor. I think they've tried to be diligent about coming as close to meeting all the requirements of the zoning as possible. And it's an odd-shaped property, and I would be in favor of granting the variance.
I agree. If you need a second, I'll second. I also think we can just go ahead and take all 6 together.
Everybody comfortable doing it all 6 at once?
I think the hardships float in and out of all 6 of them.
Right. Everyone in agreement with that?
I'd agree with that.
Andrew?
Well, I'm inclined to support all of them, but I think maybe we should issue I think we should split out the 1 through 4, which are the parking ones, and then the refuse ones, because those are kind of really separate. And maybe just for the record, sort of describe the reasoning behind those, because the parking, I think, makes perfect sense for the layout. The refuse, I think, is kind of a different explanation, which is just that. Well, actually, strike that.
Yeah.
I'm being overly. No, strike
I
that.
would suggest that
Yeah.
they are related because
Yeah, you're right.
Because of the RO district, which was frankly arbitrarily drawn, is impacting a lot of this requirement. And
Yeah.
so I would relate those all to the same
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, I agree.
concur, all six?
Yes,
So you've made the motion.
I did. I will.
Nice second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I just think that it's obviously a very unique spot, both in the RO district, it's sort of only because there's no other district that would go there logically, but there's no residences that very close. It's essentially a commercial district near a highway that is a perfectly logical spot for a hotel. There's parking, as they said, Grapponia's parking. I think we approved across the street parking where they just put the 7-Eleven in to go in front. So there's really parking on the front, so it wouldn't in any way
Right.
distract from the character of the environment. So I think it's reasonable.
Other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? It's unanimous, 5-0. Do we need the next one?
Yeah, you want to formally request a withdrawal of the next one without prejudice?
All right, so should I read that in the record?
Yeah, why don't you just read it into the record?
So next case is 5918 Capitol Hotel Company 6 LLC. Applicant wishes to appeal the zoning administrator's determination that more than one principal use is permitted on a property or within a building, and all principal uses are required to be established in accordance with zoning ordinance for the city of Concord for property located 406 South Main Street in a CG General Commercial District. You've already been sworn in. Tell us what you'd like to know.
Thank you. My name's Laura Hartz. For the record, we'd like to withdraw that appeal.
Thank you. Any questions? Great. All in favor of withdrawing the?
I don't think we have to vote on
Yeah,
it.
we have to move on it, it's just, yeah.
Thank you very
Agreed.
much.
Thank you.
And good luck. Yep.
Opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last case tonight
Last case?
is case 6118 Bangor Savings Bank. Applicant wishes to locate a wall sign on the front facade of the subject building. Requests the following. 1, variance to Article 2867, sign prohibited under this ordinance, Section I, to permit a wall sign to be located above the sills of the second floor windows where it is prohibited for signs to be located above the sills of the second floor windows. And 2, variance to Article 2869, signs permitted in non-residential districts, Section A and B, to permit a sign area of 36.4 square feet where circumstances only allow a sign of 28.5 square feet for property located at 76 and 82 North Spring Street, Lot 45/6/4, in a CBP Central Business Performance District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? As you testify, state your name and where you live.
We do. David Latula, representing Bangor Savings, live in Freeport, Maine. My name is Philip Hastings with Cleveland Wires and Bass, and I represent Bangor Savings Bank. I have a few handouts that I'd like to pass around that will aid you tonight. Fall off the steps.
Please don't.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rose just said she's not going to do that paperwork.
Take one and pass it down kind of thing?
Yes, there's 4 separate exhibits, if you will.
We shouldn't need the aerial views for this or anything, do you?
No, I don't think so. The first handout I have is from Google Maps, the existing conditions.
Yep.
If you want to bring that up, that'd be good.
Yeah, I just have to replug
Take one,
something.
pass it
It's not
down.
needed work. I'm all good.
These are all the second ones.
The contractor doing this for me.
Not very good, February.
So we should have 4 different.
Yes, you each should have a 8.5 by 11 photograph, a colored elevation plan of the building.
Yep. Black and white elevation.
A separate plan showing the proposed signage,
And some,
and then a chart with a summary that I will walk you through eventually.
Okay, good, proceed.
Great, thank you very much. We're here today for 2 specific sign variances, both related to the building signs for the, what I'll refer to as the Crazy Goat Building on North Main Street. A few months ago, Bangor Savings Bank purchased the building. It's in a relatively poor condition. If anybody's familiar with that, there's been a series of different tenants in the building. The Crazy Goat building has been a restaurant there for several years. If you focus on the photograph for a moment, you can see the one dramatically unique feature here, which is the fact that the building is a split level. This originally was a 3-story building. There was a fire several decades ago on the upper story. So the 3rd story was removed for part of the building. So you have a building that has 3 stories for one segment of it and then 2 stories for the remainder of that. Bangor Savings will be doing a complete renovation of this building, including some fairly dramatic facade improvements, as you can see on the elevation sheet. The elevation sheet that you have has been approved through the architectural design review process by the planning board. The entire facade, I believe, will be removed.
Yes.
Some of the brickwork.
Yeah, some of the brickwork will stay.
Once completed, Bangor Savings Bank will occupy the northerly portion of the first floor for retail banking operations. So that would be the left side from the granite columns to the left, with that entryway, the double-door entryway on the far northerly side of the building. The restaurant, not the Crazy Goat, will be located in the present restaurant location. The upper stories will be occupied by commercial tenants eventually.
Mostly office.
So with respect to the signs specifically, you can see from the photograph, there is sort of a hodgepodge of signage on the building. There is the Crazy Goat Tavern Bar and Grill sign. That's 32 square feet. There's a large projecting sign for the Crazy Goat off the building. That's 40 square feet. And then you have the 3 awnings across the front of the building, each of which, it's hard to tell in the Crazy Goat, but there actually is lettering on the awnings to the north. The length of the building in linear feet is 68 linear feet. According to Mr. Walker, the city treats each individual use as a separately for purposes of calculating the sign area. So presently, with 68 linear feet total for the building, there's at least 72 square feet of signage. That's not including the awnings that are there as well. What Bangor Savings Bank is proposing is to replace the Crazy Goat sign with a smaller sign for the restaurant use. You can see on this plan, it would be a 24 square foot sign, which corresponds with the amount allowed, which is 1 square foot of sign area for each linear foot of the building frontage.
You mean the amount allowed for that portion of the building?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so just proportionally, that would...
Yes,
got it, okay.
the restaurant frontage is 24 linear feet, so we'd be entitled as of right under the ordinance to 24 square feet of sign area. So what's being proposed as a restaurant sign, this plan shows the brewery. That's not specific, it's just a placeholder for what the eventual tenant will be. The Bangor Savings Bank will remove the projecting sign that is there, that will, and will not be replaced with any signage. Bangor Savings Bank would then install a 36.4 square foot Bangor Savings Bank sign above the entryway on the left side of the building. The distance on the left side of the building is a total of 44 linear feet. Of that, the vestibule or the common entryway is 15 and a half feet, leaving 28 and a half feet for the banking use on the front of the building. So as of right, Bangor Savings Bank would be entitled to 28 and a half square feet sign. We're proposing a slightly larger sign of 36.4 square feet. That leaves a directory sign of 6 square feet for the upper story tenants on the left-hand side of the building. All of the signage will be subject to ADR approval through the planning board. Once we have tenants, we will begin the process on the restaurant building, and subject to your approval tonight, we'll proceed with the Bangor Savings Bank building. The overall effect of the signage proposal would be to reduce the total sign area. You can see that on this chart. Again, the existing linear frontage for the entire building is 68 linear feet. That gets chopped up as the space gets allocated to different uses. We're proposing a total of 66 sorry, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So when you chop that into the common space for the upper story tenants, we're really shrinking what's allowed to 58 and a half square feet, because you've got 24 square foot for the restaurant use, you've got 28 and a half square foot for the bank use, and then you've got 6 square feet allocated for the upper story tenants. So that totals 58 and a half. We're proposing a total of 66.4 square feet. That is still much less than what the existing signage is on the building. Again, there's at least 72 square feet of existing signage on the building that's exclusive of the awnings. We haven't calculated what that square footage is. You can imagine it's at least a length of 40 feet, 50 feet in length, maybe closer to 68 feet. So we're drastically reducing the amount of the signage.
So, wait, sorry, but just to make sure I follow, your signage is determined by the total linear feet frontage, right?
Yes, per use.
Oh, it's per use, so it has to be segregated out per use. You can't take the total.
Right.
Because if you just took the total, you wouldn't need a variance.
That's correct.
Right,
Because
each unit is defined, as you would in a strip mall or something, where each unit has their allocation for the signage on the space that they occupy.
So you're basically, the restaurant's getting a little bit less and you're taking a little bit more, but so in total, it would, if you added it all up in total for all of the uses, it would come out under what would be allowed, but the bank side is gonna be over.
Yeah, and part of it is because, and the second floor's been vacant for at least 10 to 15 years, so you don't have access. So what this side does over that glass tower is gives a common access, so we can put in an ADA air tower that works, as well as an elevator, but it's not quite part of the bank space, so it kind of messes up that use, but it gives some utility to that second floor.
Oh, and so you wouldn't be putting a sign in that
Yeah.
unit?
Yeah, and that's why we're putting it up above, to just try to tie the whole building together versus putting it over the bank, is just to really tie that whole building together.
Greg, I have a question. Why is the upper story only allowed 6 square feet?
That's for uses that are located above the first floor. The first floor is given the sign frontage, but offices, other things up in upper floors are only permitted one sign at a dedicated doorway of up to 4 square feet, or if it's a shared doorway, a directory sign of 6 feet. As opposed to, having signage on all portions of the building, up every story. This restricts it and keeps it neat and orderly,
So none of this 15 square foot frontage, even though the Bangor is entering through that space, can be allocated to their sign?
Right, that's shared common space, I believe.
And that's precisely why the variance is
Well,
requested.
that's what I was trying to get at.
Here, it's an anomalous situation to us where you've got, the 15 and a half feet that's in fact used as access to the retail use on the banking use on the first floor. But for sign purposes, we're not allowed to use the entire length.
Is any of the tower being, is any of the second floor is bank space?
No, it's going to be just.
All of the entire second floor will be leased out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I've been in that space several times. That second floor is outrageous. I mean, you look out that window on the main street, and it's like, this is cool. So it's surprising that it stayed vacant for so long. And a few other pieces on this. If you look at currently, there's big picture windows. Jonathan from Warren Street went back, look at historic. So we're going to take those big picture windows and make them like it was in the past with 3 individual windows on each side. So there's been a lot of effort brought in. And then his feature on the top was, this was a 3-story building. So that's why we're bringing up that fencing feel and looking to do some sort of deck on the top to just try to bring this back to what it was before. Because you look on Main Street, you get like a blank tooth.
Yeah.
So that's why we're trying to, and bring some verticality to it. So that's
Was
so I
that-
think he did a great job on it.
Yeah, it looks great. The courtyard space, is that apt to have anything there that will eventually need signage?
No.
Putting a driving range up
We're
there?
still trying to figure it out, but it's more,
Putting green.
and Bangor Savings done it in a couple other locations where it's great outdoor space on a nice spring, summer evening or afternoon. They'll do events or that sort of thing, and you're overlooking Main Street. So that's what they're trying to create, a little bit of that outdoor urban space.
So, from a technical standpoint, there are 2 limitations that the zoning ordinance imposes on us with respect to these signs. One, as we've talked about, is the sign area requirement. The Bangor, the brewery sign, the restaurant sign, and the directory sign comply. As you can see, it's the Bangor Savings Bank sign as proposed would not comply. We would slightly exceed what's permitted by the ordinance by about a little bit less than 8 square feet. The second is a little more technical. The ordinance has a prohibition on wall signs being above the sills of the first level of the windows above the first story. So as you can see, the Bangor Savings sign is above the sills of the windows on the second floor. There is an exception in your ordinance under certain circumstances. Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have a building of 3 stories in height with a single user, you can have a sign up to 25 feet.
If a building greater than 3 stories in height, and it's a single occupant of the building by a conditional use permit through the planning board, they could request a sign to be located higher than 25 feet. Or even in a multiple occupancy building, if it's a single name of the building.
Of the building itself.
Correct.
So the ordinance recognizes that there's exceptions to the rule. It's not an absolute prohibition against signs of that height. The height itself is actually less than 25 feet. The height here is, the tallest point is 20 and a half feet above the street level. My applications, the narrative in the applications that I assume you've read, go through each of the variance criteria in detail. I don't want to spend a lot of time walking through that, but I'm happy to answer questions about it. I do want to hit on a couple of key issues that I think are particularly relevant to the variance request. On the height variance issue, the hardship for us really is the uniqueness of the building. As David pointed out, there are not many buildings, or maybe none that I'm aware of, that have this unique 3-story feature and then a split level down to a 2-story feature. So putting the sign any lower on the building in this case would offset it from the entryway. You could theoretically put the Bangor Savings Bank down below the sills on the first level, but it would have to be offset from the entryway. And frankly, we think that would be visually unattractive to do that. We think separation of the 2 wall signs for the restaurant use and the bank use will minimize visual clutter on Main Street, and it will provide better direction to customers to have the sign over the actual entryway. If you had the sign lower and to the right, it doesn't give much direction to customers where they're to enter to the bank use. As I mentioned before, having the sign in this location isn't inconsistent with the ordinance. There are provisions in other circumstances that would allow signs like this. It's just not in this particular circumstance. Other applicants for variances have obtained similar relief. If you take a look at the Love Building on South Main Street, you'll see the Orin Reno sign is at a height above, at a comparable height to this. So this is not unusual completely. The height is not out of character with the neighborhood. I think the height of the sign being on that second floor level, particularly given the split nature of the building, will be very consistent with the neighborhood. My office overlooks this on a daily basis. It's going to be a dramatic improvement to what you see now. The existing facade is simply not very attractive. Removing those awnings will be a huge improvement to the aesthetics of the area. On the size issue, the size of the Bangor Savings Bank sign is certainly proportional to the building. It's not particularly large or out of character, particularly given the building's height. As David mentioned, that verticality of this building really lends itself to having a sign of this size and in this location. Because we need to provide access to and signage for the upper story tenants, the proposed sign would comply with the sign area. But for the need to provide for that upper story signage, our sign would comply with the ordinance. And again, the total proposed sign area of 66.4 square feet for the building is less than the linear frontage for the entire building of 68 feet. It's really the allocation of that area between the various uses that's rendering us non-conforming. So for those reasons, we'd ask for a variance on both aspects of the zoning ordinance, and we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. So, members of the board? Answers?
On the height, you're saying that would it be in compliance if it was just basically one, I'll say, row lower on this?
If it was, look where the brewery sign is on this plan. If we made it equal to that, it's below the sills. And I believe
windows.
That would be compliant.
Right, for the height restriction, yes.
And so, I'm asking you to repeat yourself a little, but I think mean, the Love Building is way down, but in this area of Main Street, pretty much every sign, I'm kind of looking on the map here, is, at least in that area, is pretty much on the
Is
same
pretty
level,
much,
right?
yes.
So it would be above level.
It would be above the level of most signage. I think if you look across the street, is it the Mill River? Bank is,
Trust fund, yeah.
might be a little bit higher than normal, although I'm not sure it
Also,
is.
Two Capitol Plaza sign is higher than that.
The Mill River is, I see it here.
Yeah, I know.
Once again,
It's
that's
a little
the name
higher.
of a building.
Yeah,
The Mill River is a little higher.
yeah.
But so you're saying if you put it down on level with the restaurant sign, it would make it so it would be less clear for people to see the entrance?
Yeah, because you'd have to offset it to the right, so it would be below that row of 3 windows.
Why would it have to be offset there? Is there something obstructing it from just going straight over the doorway there?
We can't put two lines of copy that wouldn't fit. You had to be all one line of copy.
And what we're trying to create is, we're actually trying to de-emphasize the sign and keep that streetscape as you're walking down Main Street. That's why you see the amount of glass. We brought in the granite features, which you see with the big investment the city did. So we're trying to really make, as you're walking down Main Street, that you feel this building's inside and out. You're trying to get in, try to have that streetscape feel. And if you put that sign right over the entrance, the sign's gonna overplay. So what Jonathan's done is put a pretty substantial awning that covers over this front and then runs all the way across to the restaurant side. So we're trying to keep that uncluttered, so it's more of an attractive gateway in. So that was the intent for it. The other thing I'll point out, which is subtle in the colored picture, those gray, just below the second floor windows and above the first floor windows, those are solar awnings. So we're gonna get some solar benefit because of the direction, especially in the afternoon sun. But it's more of a statement of green and how can we be providing more than just plugging into the electrical power. So that would take away a little bit of that. And they've done that on about 6 projects already, and they want them in prominent places. They don't say, David, don't go hide them on the roof. Put them someplace so people can see that we care and the community cares, and to inspire others. So, I mean, that's part of the reason why they put those on their awning. So they're trying to make that more of a feature than the sign.
You can still put them on the roof, too.
We can, yeah. And we have. I'll tell you right now, they just put we're building a 450-car parking garage in Bangor, Maine, and they put a V-shaped solar roof that's going to generate 650 kW
It's a perfect spot
annually.
for it.
And it is, it's right on the river, and it's cool. And like the maintenance guy said, so I won't have to plow that roof. I said, no, you won't. So that's going to go up in 2 months, so.
Can I just ask clarification? So you're saying that the gray shaded area,
Yes.
which is the top third of the lower windows, is actually an awning? The solar
There's
awning?
an awning is brown, and up above it is the solar panel sitting on that awning. So instead of having the canvas awning, you'll have a little protrusion. and
This
those-
brown level, this brown section below on top of the windows, you're saying that's an awning?
Yeah, that's, it serves as a canopy.
A canopy,
Yeah.
this.
So that's the canopy, and those are the solar panels sitting
These.
right on top of
These
those.
are.
Yep, yeah, as well as here.
So you
How
really,
far does
so
that
you,
project out from the building then?
No, it should be just the way they'll have them projected and set, so.
so how far out does this,
I think it goes about
Canopy.
2.5 feet, just enough to get the rain out.
over the sidewalk,
Over the
basically,
sidewalk,
over the
yeah.
entrance?
Yeah.
So you really can't move the sign down over the doors because of
It
that
would be
projection?
awkward, yeah. Then the sign would be too forward at that main entrance, so.
So the projecting, this sign that projects out and across the sidewalk under the current configuration?
That'd be removed.
Yeah. Could have kept it if you wanted it, though, right?
Yeah, and we could have re-signed it, which,
But
We may just leave it as the crazy goat. It's kind of iconic.
You're just
Just
doing
so
that to
your
get my
office, you
goat,
can-
aren't you?
because you've looked at it from your office for so many years.
Yes, yes.
Maybe you'll get to keep it.
That sign is really out of character with, I
There
think
wasn't
what-
something else there, a shoe store or something, right? And they
Oh,
were-
yeah, years
The
ago.
centerpiece
was
has
the-
been vacant for a
Was
while.
it Chandler? No,
it was
not
the Chandler shop
Yeah,
for a
Chandler shop was in
while,
there,
there was a
and maybe, but-
boutique,
Yeah,
there
the
might
shoe
have been
store was in there too.
Shoetorium or.
Yeah.
Before the
The former owner wants his sign back when we take
Oh,
it
really?
down.
Okay.
He hasn't asked for it to be sent to Manchester. I said, you can have it.
Okay.
Any questions, further questions?
If, I guess if we approve a variance but relocate where they've shown it here, can we do that, or do we have to deny the variance and have them come back?
I'm sorry, what?
If we were to approve a variance but have this sign lowered,
Can't
can't
It
do
could
that,
be-
can we?
it
We can
was-
only approve or disapprove exactly what they've submitted?
Well, the request is to allow the sign above the sills of the second floor window. If they
As
chose to, right, well, and not, but it's not exceeding 25 feet. Well, even if it was, as long as, if they were moving it down and making it more conforming, then that could occur. Yeah, as long as you're not increasing the further request.
So just above the solar panel?
I just, I guess I'm just having trouble not having it conform because of the way the streetscape looks.
Yeah.
But you're indicating that this canopy could create an issue with doing that.
Yeah. So
And
just above that.
So
canopy.
I guess my question is, can we approve, but you show it as 16 feet above street level, can we approve 12 feet above, or
Yes, you
some
could.
other
In
number?
this particular case, you could, because the request is just to have it above the sills, not at a height of 16 feet.
So we could deny the 16 feet, but,
Or just grant it with the condition that it be reduced to 12 feet.
or some number.
Right.
Yeah,
Or whatever.
yeah, probably the appropriate number would be somewhere around,
Well, you
top of the
probably
sign
wouldn't
being
want to
six-
touch the
16 feet.
Well, 16 feet is what you're applying.
That's the bottom.
That's the
16.
bottom
That's
right
what I-
now is about
I'm
16.
referring to the
top,
bottom.
If you made that the
16.8.
top,
I'm referring to the bottom, just to
Okay.
simplicity.
I mean,
So the bottom right now is shown at 16.8, as shown on the plan.
the bottom is shown here at 20.6.
No, that's the top. That's the top.
This is
20.6 is the top.
Are you trying to get the bottom of the sign to be consistent
Oh,
with
yeah,
the bottom?
yeah.
This one?
and the sign is
I don't
3 foot 10
know.
high.
Well, you can't, again, because this is
It's
these are
this-
the panels.
It's the same,
Yeah, so that
15
brings up a
plus or
question.
minus.
The brewery sign, is that attached to the outer edge of this canopy?
It is on the, yeah, the outer, but it's inside the canopy, but sitting on top of it, yeah.
Which it looks like those are the solar panel, those blocks,
Yeah,
right?
so those will get blocks like,
I see. Okay.
When,
I just wonder whether, well, anyway, we can discuss it, but as long, if we can approve a variance, but subject to a different dimension, if that's acceptable, if we can do that, then I'd like to be able to consider that.
Well, unless David puts his hand over my mouth here, I would, I think we would be willing if the board is not inclined to grant the variance as requested, it would be more palatable to drop the height down, we would be willing to accept that condition.
That's, I don't know what the board's
And
feeling, but
not
that's
to,
my
not to, another possibility is to make the recommendation, because this still has to go back to the Architectural Design Review Board, correct? With a recommendation to the Architectural Design Review that it be lowered, but when they look at the building, they may be looking at the location of the sign on the facade and centering and other things of that nature, so you may or may not want to restrict them in their ability to allow it at that maximum height, but that's just another alternative.
there's a lot of banks downtown, retail banks right in that area. and, it's competitive, is there, I mean, is having that higher signage give you a leg up in terms of, like, business?
It was more of the opposite, is preserving the streetscape and trying to keep that look and get it just above the awning so it's visible. It's,
So like walk-in traffic, that's not, you're not like,
no, I mean, we're trying to keep the walking traffic so you look in and you see the vibrancy of the bank. I was walking by a lot of today, and it seems like there's a lot of walls in front, and that's not what we want. We designed it so that it's glass, so you're looking through, and if you look at how the lobby and the offices are all structured, it's all glass walls. So they want to really, so if you're walking on Main Street, you say, what's going on there? There's something's activity. And on the second and third floor, the second floor is going to be sunken in. On the third floor, we want a conference room hanging right there. So people will go by and say, hey, there's something going on up there. I mean, that's the intent of bringing this building. They want it to be lively. So that's what, so the signage is like an afterthought, and the architect said, this will be a place that won't take away from your third floor, and it won't detract from your first floor, and that's what he selected. So at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal on the height. It was more, that's what the architect felt that made it work for the criteria, so that's.
So even though it seems to me we could accept something less, I think Craig's suggestion might be a good one, just to give the architectural design review some flexibility, so we wouldn't necessarily have to come back. If you restricted it now below that, and we went to ADR and said, oh, we'd really like to see it 2 feet higher, then we'd have to come back before you.
I'm looking at this, we might be able to figure this out. So if I remove those 2 solar panels, and I set the sign just above that canopy, so it has the same bottom as the brewery, but it extends above. So technically, I'm above the windowsill because I've got a little bigger letter than the brewery. Would that be acceptable? I mean, that would work, I think, for us. Can we get the intent?
That's more of what I'm thinking. It just lines up better visually.
So if we could say
so
the
he's
bottom
aiming
of the sign is at the bottom of at the top of the canopy, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think that's a.
Or lines up with the bottom of the brewery sign, however.
Yeah,
Because
lines
again,
up with the bottom of
architectural
the,
community may
lines
do
up with the
that.
bottom of the brewery sign. But technically, I think we still need the variance because we'd be slightly over that windowsill
No, I understand.
definition.
I understand.
You're just gonna make my sign guy happy because he said, how the hell am I gonna put that sign on that curtain wall? I said, I don't know, you'll figure it out. So I'd be
So we're in the
comfortable with that.
discussion stage, so any further questions?
That's all I have.
Further questions? Okay, is there anything else you'd like us to know?
Nope, I'm good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You good?
Is there anyone who wants to be heard in support of the application? Anyone who wants to be heard in opposition? Seeing none, Craig, comment?
I have nothing else to add at this point.
Okay. Would you have a seat?
So, just to continue my thoughts, I just look at, I really am reluctant to allow things to start rising off of that plane that all the other signs are. But I wouldn't be opposed if this were to drop down, so at least the bottom ties in with the brewery bottom sign. So it's going to exceed the windowsills by probably 2 feet, which is not a large variance, but I just think it's more in keeping with what's going on down there. If we can approve it, that's what.
so when do you guys say, like, sum it up for me exactly what their argument is, that let me take a stab at it. They're basically saying, because where they're putting the solar panels and the awning, they can't put it in line because there wouldn't be space for it. It seems like a beautiful design, and
Yeah, I mean, I like the design the way it is. I
really
wouldn't
like
want it, I personally would be against lowering it. I think it looks best this way.
it's just tough because then I think it's a really beautiful design, but then is it a self-imposed hardship, really? Because that's
It is, but I mean, they're trying to come up with some solar and do something kind of creative on
yeah,
Main
undoubtedly.
Street too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would almost give them a little leeway when they're trying to incorporate something else.
I mean, the building has been vacant, which suggests that people, developers have been having a hard time putting it to good use, so maybe a reasonable use is something a little more creative that would, allow it to become commercially viable.
You look at the pictures that are there now and what they're proposing, and
Is that illuminated sign on the?
internally lit, it says on the plan here, blue and white logo.
No, I'm asking about we approved a couple of weeks ago, the illuminated sign at the old Concord Theater. That's above the sill line.
That was one of the
That was
requests
above,
there, I
yeah,
believe.
yeah.
Yeah, or in greater than 25 feet, I believe.
Yeah,
So
Jim
we've already,
wasn't here
we've
that
already,
night, right?
already done.
You were screaming at the TV.
Yeah.
when we were doing it.
Problem.
His reasoning was,
What are you guys doing?
I don't disagree with Jim.
variances at a time that we just lost.
I don't disagree with Jim's interest here about trying to make it consistent with the streetscape, but I also don't want to second guess either their architect or architect design. I kind of like the suggestion of approving it with the recommendation that we ask the architecture design folks to take a hard look at that question.
And so what if we do that, it's just a recommendation,
That they
that just
think-
gets conveyed to them?
Correct,
that
yes.
they
It goes
feel
in their notes?
Right.
This is what the zoning board thought?
And they would take that into, firm consideration, hard consideration, or if they,
In regards to variance 2, on the size, I think the hardship is just the way things are configured, because, so I would be in favor of granting variance 2 on the basis that the total signage is 66 square feet, but their total frontage is 68. And just by the nature of how it configures,
Right.
they're getting that
Yeah.
restriction. So I don't have any problem with the size.
Because it's very unique because of
And that is the
multi.
uniqueness. of
Yes,
the
and even
hardship.
though the code requires it to be parsed out by units, in this particular case, it's treating it all together because of the unique structure is logical.
When we take it up as two issues, why don't we take up the size issue first and vote on that? That seems to be the easiest one to deal
But
with.
I'd move to approve the variance on the size issue,
So
for the
that's-
reasons we discussed.
Is there a second?
That's number 2, is that correct?
Yes.
Second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Now the first variance.
Who do you want me to?
I'm not gonna-
I'll move that we approve it. I think it,
Do you have a recommendation on there? then?
yeah, with the recommendation that the, is it the Architectural Review Committee?
yeah, ADR, yeah.
The ADR, consider whether or not it might be more appropriate to lower the bottom of the sign so that it's consistent with the height of the restaurant sign.
I'll second that.
You okay with that one? Good? All right.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
I think Jim's point is well taken. I think I'd feel, it doesn't seem inconsistent with the character, even though it is a little bit higher than the other signs. And I think I'd be more concerned if it was an issue where there's like a number of competing stores and one wants to go a little higher than higher and so forth, and they're trying to get a leg up on each other, but that's not really what's going on here, so.
I'd also think, I think there's a uniqueness to the building because of the fact that it's this gap tooth
Yeah.
building where a portion of the building was removed at one point. It creates a design challenge that I think may be met with the positioning of the sign. But I'm not, it's outside of my wheelhouse to make that judgment.
I agree.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
No, or aye.
The vote is 4-1.
No, I think it,
Wait, it's commercial.
wait, you voted nay?
Yeah.
You voted against it.
All right, last month's minutes.
Okay.
Who was here last month?
I was here. I'll move the minute.
Who was here last month? Who could second?
I was here last time.
Right.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I wasn't here. Were you here?
I was not here, sir.
So I guess the two. I was in Australia and New Zealand.
Boring.
Eating kangaroo.
So can they vote, just two of them?
Sure.
Everybody can vote.
Have you?
Everybody can vote as long as it's used.
Any other business?
No, I have nothing additional for the board tonight.
Trash out that I put in.
Is anyone surprised by the Supreme Court decision?
He's over neck.
Which one was that?
It's the guy up in Oak Hill.
The one you sent,
No, because
The
Craig
appeal to
told
the
us.
Superior Court, yeah,
Superior Court,
yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry, yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Wilbur made it very clear that he had intended to take
Yeah,
that
I got
to
that.
the next level. So.
Wait, we're off the record, right?
Good.